very much. It's
a lot of
pleasure.
abbreviations to deal with.
And thank you, viewers, for joining us.
But he's also a lawyer, so I think I'll just start from that perspective, getting his legal perspective about this Supreme Court matter, which from a layman's perspective is kind of confusing. Because, I mean, you know what your lawyers say, justice must not just be done, must be seen to have been done. So lots of people just wondering. In one breath, the former AGF did say the former President Goodluck Jonathan didn't have the power to suspend an elected governor whilst the state of emergency was declared. But now we've seen this judgment which says otherwise. And so one wonders, what's your impression about this judgment, for instance?
Well, first and foremost, the whole idea of the courts is to preserve rule of law. And rule of law is the effective and efficient administration and enforcement of the law in order to bring order to the society. Anytime any branch of government is not conscious of effective administration of the law, it rather brings confusion and anarchy. The job of the courts is to interpret the law, not to make it, not to amend it. And their interpretation should be such that brings order in the society and not chaos and anarchy. You have just pointed out that the position of the court is different from what the AGF has said, from what other people, even the friends of Tinubu that condemned the emergency, the position of the court is even different from them. There was a demonstration of lack of understanding of federalism, of rule of law, and of common sense. Because we are operating a democracy, power to the people. So how can a court rule? And they are putting a constitution that I don't know the paragraph and section they cited, that the power should now be in the president to determine who the leaders of the people are. Let me tell you what rule of law says. According to Professor A.V. Dicey, he was the person that made the first authoritative statement on rule of law. And he said rule of law is the absolute predominance of the regular law as opposed to arbitrary power, and excludes the presence or the existence of arbitrariness or prerogative or wide discretionary powers on the part of government. But you have a Supreme Court that is now giving the president wide discretionary powers, not known to the Constitution, not known to the law. Now, I give you the interpretative power of the Supreme Court. A precedent that the Supreme Court laid by themselves.
Mr. Okonkwo, sorry to interrupt you. When you say that the Supreme Court is giving the president
wide discretionary powers.
Wide discretionary powers.
Yes.
What exactly?
As opposed to the rule of law.
What exactly do you mean? Because the state of emergency, the powers to declare a state of emergency is in our Constitution, isn't it?
Nobody is against that.
Yeah.
Nobody is, nobody is interrogating the judgment based on the fact that the Supreme Court said the president has the right to declare the state of emergency. No. What we ask, the issue here is, does the president have the right to remove elected members in the name of declaration of a state of emergency? And my opinion, respectfully, is no. Because one, it is not reflected in the Constitution. Let me tell you what the Supreme Court said in the case of Atiku versus INEC in the 2023 election, where they told you how to interpret the provisions of the Constitution. And I'm talking about 2023, 19 Nigerian Weekly Law Report, part 1917 at page 761. The Supreme Court said when you are interpreting the Constitution, you must adopt a polylitic, not a monolithic approach, where you have to take it holistically and harmoniously, one section relating to the other, in order to ensure that you bring out the intention of the legislature when they are drafting the Constitution. In their interpretation of the section 134, subsection 2b, you know what the Supreme Court said? When they gave judgment in favor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying that you don't need to score 25% in the FCT. They said the reason is that if the drafters of the Constitution meant that he would do that, they would have created another paragraph, paragraph C, to reflect it. Meaning whatever the Constitution did not provide, you as the court cannot impute it in. So if the drafters of the Constitution meant that you will remove elected representatives, they would have included the paragraph in section 305. That paragraph was not there. Now, the Supreme Court said that the section 305 granted the president to use extraordinary measures
to restore normalcy.
First and foremost, that section 305 is telling you the conditions that will make it ripe for the president.
That's condition precedence.
Yes, to declare state of emergency. What is the extraordinary measures? It has been explained in section 45, saying that the president can derogate on some fundamental human rights. If you read section 45, subsection 3, you will see where they said that the period of emergency is as declared by the president. The president doesn't make laws. It is the National Assembly. He simply implements. Now, even the National Assembly that has the right to make laws during period of emergency, in section 11, subsection 4, the proviso to it, he said that this power does not include removing elected governor and deputy governor.
But not that the Supreme Court has ruled otherwise.
Yes, first of all,
that one will bow to this one, isn't it what you people say?
No, you see one thing, I agree that by the realism, legal realism school of thought, whatever the court pronounces as the interpretation of the law becomes the law. But this is not a super precedent. Why am I saying that? First of all, they admitted that giving this judgment out of jurisdiction. In law, whatever you say, when you don't have jurisdiction, is a nullity. So the opinion of the Supreme Court should not be disregarded. What I'm saying, they say they don't have jurisdiction, so they just stated their opinion.
It means, what does that mean then?
It means that what they just stated is opinion, but their opinions still matter in legal issues.
So wait, let me just ask you, from a layman's perspective, if they say they don't have jurisdiction, because jurisdiction is key.
Yes, it means that the judgment is a nullity.
But why do they then need to comment?
That is why
they feel not true.
That if I were in their position, I wouldn't have done that. As an apex court, they have the right to just decline the decision and not make any other comment. That is a right given to them, rather than throwing the nation into confusion. Now, what am I saying by this judgment? Can you imagine? What it means is that the president now has the right to suspend 36 governors at the same time. He can declare that there's a state of emergency nationwide and that he will use the military to rule Nigeria for a limited time. What is the limited time? So
is that subject to personal interpretation, limited time?
No.
Or is it just 6 months?
The Constitution said 6 months. So it cannot exceed 6 months at a time, but it can be renewed. So it is. For me, it was delivered per incurium. In other words, not in accordance with the law, because the law is very clear.
So on the one hand, and I'm really trying my best not to look at, because I'm also unsure if you're looking at this purely on the merit of the case, not whether or not you're also a member of the opposition party, because some people will say, look, even if the president could, it will be your job as a member of the opposition not to find room otherwise. But taking a look at what a state of emergency, because there are those who actually say, what does it mean when a state of emergency has been declared in a state, or it is declared in a part of the country? Some people say, and these are some of your lawyers who say that what it means is that the rule of law in that part of the state or that part of the country has been suspended temporarily. And so whichever elected official is operating within that sphere, at least at the state level or in the part that has been suspended, have lost their powers temporarily. They really do not have a role. That it would seem that the pronouncement of a suspension is more or less ceremonial.
Well, first and foremost, rule of law is unsuspendable. Because it is from the law that you still get the power to pronounce the state of emergency. So rule of law is unsuspendable.
So what does it mean then when the state of emergency is declared?
Good. I just explained to you. It is stated right there in section 45, where they said, the human rights are supposed to be sacrosanct. But they say the provisions of the human rights cannot invalidate any law made by the National Assembly in the interest of defense, public safety, public morality, public order, and public health, and to protect the rights of other people. Now I'm talking about Section 45. And they are trying to tell you that during the state of emergency, your fundamental human rights can be derogated on. You can be, for instance, told, don't step out of this place. That's your freedom of movement curtailed. Because they want to treat about the security challenges outside, which might even harm you. So you cannot come and say, this is false imprisonment. My fundamental right on movement was infringed on. No. The state of emergency gives the president the power to say, no, you cannot move. Why? In the interest of public safety. So what I'm saying is that it has nothing, as a matter of fact, it has nothing to do with elected representatives. And again, you thought something when I was talking as a member of the opposition. I do not play politics with the law, because the law is sacrosanct and is stated. I had this position even before the decision of the Supreme Court. In Rivers State, I'm not a member of PDP. I'm not a member of APC. Rivers State is purely transgenderic. There are political transgenders there. Because I don't know whether they are APC or PDP. I don't know whether they are male or female.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yes, it means that they are just not female.
They're political transgender.
That's what they are doing in Rivers State. Is we get APC or PDP? So, but by the way, what I'm trying to say is that Fubara, remember,
he's not a member of the APC.
I don't know.
He's not in APC.
Okay, he said he's now 001. 001. Okay. Now, what was I saying? I was trying to tell you that in Rivers State, the conditions for the declaration of state of emergency was not even met by the president. There was no breakdown of law and order at all. There was no threat on that. What is the evidence? These things are evidence-based and facts-based. So the issue of even trying to act as an opposition does not even arise. I don't belong to PDP or APC.
Speaking about the opposition,
and I don't even know the party they belong to.